can take it away.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. So I will share my screen so we can just get right into it. Um, this presentation is going to be more about the students that I work with and really more just about what we're doing as a campus and less about myself. So it's really great to be here with everyone and just kind of talk about really what we've been doing together. So I'll go ahead and share my screen with you and we'll just kind of go through and spend a little bit of time together. So I really am grateful to be here with everyone. So just a little bit about myself. I am, of course, those of you that work with me already know who I am, but for those that um, do not work with me, and sorry, let me just minimize this so you guys can actually see my face and not just hear hear me talk. Um, I um, I actually do a little bit of research on the side. So I work with surface electromyographics, which is wearable technology, and I work a little bit with the students. We have two students primarily that we work with at flagship campus, and they are Jordan, Walter, and Erica Gustafson. And outside of my teaching responsibilities, I work with them at the master's level, and they are full-time track and field athletes. And I work with them in electromyography. And so that's been an ongoing process over the last several months. And so I would say 6 months in total. It's been a really rewarding experience. And so um, I am a Keiser alumni. I started back in about 2013, and I got my undergrad back in Daytona. And um, I got my bachelor's in sports medicine and fitness technology. Miss Julie Schneider was in charge of the program. And fast forward, I got my master's and PhD with Concordia St. Paul. And my PhD is in wearable technology, and my focus is on fatigue in the sit to stand. And I focus, most of my research focuses on utilizing the sit to stand in primarily utilizing median frequency detection. And so I work closely with Dr. Kingsley, who I would consider a mentor who helps me out quite a bit, making sure that our research is scholarly and really geared. And I also work with Dean Johnston, who makes sure that uh, our students are aligned and make sure that we have the resources that we need to get what we need. And the R&D process is really streamlined. And we also work with the online graduate department, Dr. Morgan Washington and Dr. Diaz, who co-authors with our studies as well. So we work quite a bit together with these students on the scholarship. So uh, we work really quite a bit together to get this done. And so when we think about, why should you guys really care about scholarship in general? Um, this is really not so much about like a research project that myself that I do. We really try to integrate really about the students and what they want to do. So what kind of impact? What kind of impact? So about a few classes ago, I would say probably about three, um, research is kind of new and kind of just starting out really with the students. Our research, especially right now, is sort of new, kind of a growing identity. And a lot of students have some really great ideas, especially undergraduate students and graduate students. So we're kind of new to growing the identity out right now. But what's really great about these individual students, Erica and Jordan, is that they have had prior experience before they came to Keiser in research. And so they worked in this field. So it wasn't anything that we kind of had to force upon them. They worked in motor neural. They worked in this field. So they had a growing interest in it. And so we just kind of pitched the idea, who wanted to research, who had an interest in it. And so I worked with Erica herself originally, and it was kind of just something that kind of started from there. And what we are doing is mostly, students are very busy. They don't really have a lot of time to really research. And so we kind of just started out, with a little bit of mentorship, and we kind of started from, which we'll get into. And so kind of let's talk a little bit about Ground Zero. So we have a lot of strong ideas right now as a program. We've just recently went to a conference in South Carolina, which was really impactful. We went to Greensville, which was a national conference, and we did a poster presentation, which was really strong results. And we're considering going to a national conference next year as a seminar. And so we have, we're really blessed to get a lot of strong support. And I'm a relatively new hire, so administration has been really receptive to really helping us out. So what that means is we have the methodology at Flagship, meaning what I did my PhD work on is wearable technology. So they're shorts that you put on, and they read nerve conduction. They read the nerve traffic within the legs. So with the campus, we've done a lot of collaborative talk about working with student athletes, working with other departments, and so we've just go over to athletic training department, see what kind of work they do. And it started off kind of exploratory. When I got hired in my first semester, I was just more curious, working with some of the professionals and what kind of work they did. And they didn't really have a lot of equipment, so I just asked, and it was receptive, slow but receptive. And right now, it's kind of the sky's the limit. We have a lot of collaboration, and we didn't have any real student interest at first, but right now, the girls have just been phenomenal. We got the equipment purchased, and then the students have been really, the students are hungry, and right now, gosh, we've made so much progress in such a short amount of time. Grad school, gosh, Dr. Diaz and Morgan have been really wonderful with just the amount of camaraderie. I'm about to show you some artifacts that really show that, but Erica has really been the star and really the glue, and kind of talk to you a little bit about really what that means. So some organizations that I belong to. I'm a member of the American Association of Neuromuscular and Electric Diagnostic Association. So who they are is they're a neurology association. There's about 7,000 of them in the world. And so in the world of exercise, it's the closest thing to medicine that we get to on the side of neuromuscular. You have to be sponsored by a physician if you're not a physician, and it allows us to basically claim medical intervention. So with things like the shorts and any other diagnostic tool allows us to work with disease, and allows us to work along neurology. So I have to be sponsored by a neurologist in order to do anything with neurology or anything with any kind of diagnosis. So I'm not allowed to work with any disease independently and say that this person has a disease or anything like that. And so I'm a research scientist for them, and it allows us to have access to clinical patients. And it's really great for Keiser because it allows us to have access to clinical population. So both of our students have submitted research posters for their national conference this year. One as first author and the other two as second authors. So both of our students are first authors on a poster to them, and their national conferences in Orlando. It's huge progress for our department, and it will give them a lot of credibility moving forward. And it's something that just happened this year, and it's really, really great. Tons of exposure. And another thing that we've done is we've submitted to the Journal of Kinesiology and Electrobiograph off of my thesis work. That's current, and that was coming off of the national conference that we attended as well. And both of our girls right now, and we just got medical clearance from France for one of our students who has a clotting disorder, and it was her idea. We've been working really hard on this. It was her idea. She pitched it, and she wants to be a case study with the shorts that we acquired to observe herself under stress conditions and our other student to do the methodology. I'm telling you, our students are really impressive. And we're doing really some first of its kind on really high level. We're talking like R1 level studies. And I just got the medical clearance from France yesterday to really observe this kind of stuff. Student engagement, we're really trying to mine for ideas, and it's something we're really trying to develop right now, like a pipeline, because we know that it's the first question is, this is great, really cool stuff that you're doing, but how do you replicate it? I'll be honest with you, not everybody has this kind of time and this kind of energy and this kind of passion. And, I'm working that out. I'm working that out. But it's cool. The students are amazing, but they kind of came pre-exposed, and that helps a lot. But right now I'm working with the dean, and I'm working with my department to kind of smooth out the edges. But right now, we are still looking for proof of concept. The students right now have they're so full of energy, and they're so full of passion for what they're doing. And I'm about to show you something here that's really cool in a second, which is they actually made some testimonials for this presentation. So you don't have to take my word for it. Just how they kind of came, they kind of just they came up with the ideas themselves, and they put in a lot of time. And but I'll be honest with you, as a professor, you got to put in a lot of time too. And that's kind of the labor of love, because research is something that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. But the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is you get to see them really be successful. And we're trying to come up with a plan right now where that model is repeatable, really repeatable, and where it's not a one-off goal, and where they are able to go to a conference, repeat that model, and other students can be successful out of that model. And it leads to leadership to scholarship, where hopefully down the road, I'm not going to throw out any ideas here, but there's some sort of structure where other students can, hopefully we're blazing a trail right now where we can create some success with the girls we have right now, and hopefully we can smooth out that system where other students can be successful where these girls are. Now, this is sort of the structure that I've seen so far, where your program directors and your deans sort of facilitate the process for faculty to streamline their proposals. What I've seen so far is there's a lot of support for your ideas. The chain of command places an essential role in the execution of your experiment. So there's a lot of support for your ideas. I'm this is just my experience. I don't know what it is for other people, but you have ideas and there is a process. There are forms you have to fill out, justifications, purchase orders, and things like that. And there's internal request forms that are processed to be conducted on campus grounds and things like that. And there are IRBs that have to be drafted by associate deans, and there's a KU system. But generally speaking, this is sort of the rough process that exists to kind of get from leadership to scholarship. You don't just kind of show up and start doing stuff. But I mean, I've been hired for roughly under a year, and this is essentially the process. I'll be honest, I have a very supportive group that's with me, and my program director has been vastly supportive, and so is my deans. But this has been, essentially the process is there's, paperwork, there is a bureaucratic process to it, but this is essentially what you have to go through in order to get the payment to the road. And so, where do you start? It starts with the faculty does do a lot of the heavy lifting, and you start, but you can't do anything without students, of course. And I wouldn't put anyone up to the task of just having an idea. You do need students in order to get somewhere, and the students I have are really, really amazing. And that's actually what we're about to talk about. And so, Erica and Jordan are just phenomenal, and they really make it worth the long hours on the weekend, and really why we do it. And their ideas. We meet weekly. We meet weekly. We have weekly meetings, and we talk about their ideas, where we're going. We have assignments. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of revision. There's a lot of learning. It brings a lot of fulfillment to the profession. And, I mean, teaching, the teaching full time is a joy in itself, but, it keeps me, it brings a lot of reward to the research aspect of the job, because, research is not required at all for what I do, but it brings so much passion and value to what I do, and it's a giving process for what I do, and it's brought a whole new meaning to being at Keiser, and it also is how I find belonging at Keiser. And it also is, as I honestly look forward to when I see the girls, it also gives me fulfillment and meaning. And it's also my way of giving back to Flagship and my way of giving back to the institution, because I mean, I wouldn't say it's why I got a PhD, but it's also a way of me, the students have gotten to a point to where a student already got an internship for research back in her country, and she's doing that research internship here in a few months. And at first, when Jordan came to me, she was like, I want to do this for a master's graduation project. And how she came up with the idea, I didn't have the authority to say, yeah, you can do this, but I was like, why don't we turn it into a research project? And so I'll basically tell you Erica's situation. So Erica started out in applied nutrition in our class, and prior to that, she had some EMG experience. And so I kind of proposed to her that we could work together a little bit. And at the time, we didn't really have any research infrastructure in the program. And so we just kind of started talking a little bit, and that's kind of how it grew into interest. And so this is her testimonial.
There's no sound.
I'm sorry. You guys can't hear this?
No, we can't hear it.
Oh, I'm very
No
sorry.
sounds.
Let me see here.
Andrew, I think the best is for you share your screen and then click the share the audio.
Okay.
This way, when you play, if you hear in your end, we should hear.
Okay. So share screen, share audio. Stop sharing. And
yeah, I think that's the way.
Okay. Okay, share screen. Where's the share audio option? Share screen. I'm sorry, this is embarrassing.
Don't be embarrassed, man. We've all fallen victim to the tech demons out there.
Yeah, if you share the screen, your audio should come. So try this one time.
Okay.
If you know, I don't know if the students in the call, then maybe they can talk live.
I don't think they are, but share sound. Okay. I got the share sound. And then back to my PowerPoint. And
hi, my name is Erica,
yes,
and I'm co-authoring Dr. Gibson's research project, and I'm also co-authoring my peer Jordan Walter's research project. And I'm gonna answer some. Hi, my name is Erica, and I'm co-authoring Dr. Gibson's research project, and I'm also co-authoring my peer Jordan Walter's research project. And I'm gonna answer some quick questions about my interest in research. So, I got interested in research now as a master's student. What made me interested at first was the opportunity that Dr. Gibson gave me with his awesome research idea in electromyography. So that's my simple answer to that. And what keeps me engaged with research? I would say curiosity, and something that I have learned is the more you learn, the less you know. So just keep learning and get to know how things work the way they do, I would say. And what keeps me motivated doing research, and what do you hope for to get out of it when you're done? What motivates me is to developing critical thinking, I would say, and then be able to apply it in clinical experience. I also hope in the future that I will keep being updated with the newest interventions, provide the best for my clients. I have a bachelor's degree in physiotherapy, so just being able to being updated, and now being able to also be a part of a research project is just awesome. And lastly, what made you come up with the idea, or at least what you enjoy about what you're doing the most? I would say it's meaningful to me as a student athlete and a physio to learn and get more knowledge about the field, about human movement, I have some experience in neuroscience also. I have some experience in EMG also, and this is fields that I really enjoy reading or being in clinically. So in the future, I hope I can just provide the knowledge to other people and hopefully also publishing some more research.
So that's Erica's piece. So Jordan is our other student, and she kind of came a little later after Erica, and hers is a little different. She has a unique situation, and she proposed a final project for her master's class. She wanted it to be her graduation project, but it just kind of evolved a little differently. And I had mentioned that I'm part of this uh, like organization, and so we had put together a poster for Erica. So I figured, why don't we put a poster together for Jordan and Erica? So I saw the potential in making it uh, not letting the idea die. And it was such a good idea that she has a condition known as factor V Leiden or thromboembolism, which is like a clotting disorder. And so we combined it, and I figured we could do something with it. So I reached out to Dr. Diaz and Dr. Washington, and this is her testimony.
Hello, so my name is Jordan. I'm doing a master in exercise and sports science here at Keiser, and I got the opportunity to get involved in a research project. So why I got interested by doing research is that I always wanted to do a thesis for a master, and back in France, I did a bachelor in a school that was really good and really involved in research. So I was always surrounded by researchers, and I really saw how research can brings you something more as a person in general. The fact that I always want to know more and get interesting in new things. I think it's what's like keeps me engaged in research and what's really bring me the little plus to work harder and add some work to everything else to do research. So what I hope later with research that gives me is that I gain some experience for my future in general. Um, I think it can really bring me something else than just doing my regular studies. And I also want to see the world of research if I can be interesting of it to continue in that after my studies or if I want to go somewhere else. So how I bring up my ID, it was kind of easy. It's I have a genetic disease and I run track and I wanted to know and see if my disease can impact my practice or everything in my running days or something like that. So we come up with the professor to see what can we do together to make that IDs really happen, and there we go. And what I enjoy about the most is like I think when it's done and if we actually did a good job, it can really help other people. So I think that's what I like the most about that. Hello.
Yeah, so I think her idea and helping the rubber meet the road is really what it's all about because what's really amazing is it's her idea, and that's really what the passion's all about. You know, these students have really phenomenal ideas, and I really think pedagogy that's really the definition of it. It's helping them see the brightness in themselves. You know, our students are really special, and you know, for those of you that have the pleasure of having these students in your classes, it's really that much more rewarding to really get to see them in that spotlight. And so, you know, when you get to see them as students and then to see them grow into your co-authors, it really is amazing. So it's really such a pleasure to really work with them as they maturate and know as we get to see our programs develop And as we get to see the support for research really foster, you get to see them turn into methodologists, and get to see them contribute to their own ideas, and you get to see them birth something that they're passionate. I mean, she said it herself. She is it's her disease, it's her genetic disorder, and she wants to see it conceptualize and materialize. I mean, we ourselves possess PhDs, and we had to go down that very path. Imagine authoring something and contributing to mankind something that you yourself are suffering from. So it really is a pleasure, putting in the time and watching them want something better for themselves, and especially at Flagship with students that you're with every day. So so this is the meeting structure that we typically do. We set an appointment in the schedule, we have an objective, and we meet usually for an hour, and we'll bring it's typically just something from my thesis, because they don't really have the resources. So we typically meet, and I'll teach them a little bit at a time. Maybe it's something loose, but I typically would teach them a little bit as they go. If we're doing something with Dr. Diaz, Dr. Kingsley, my program director, or Dr. Washington, we'll meet as a group, and we'll typically keep it short just because people have busy schedules. Our most recent meeting was working on Jordan's project, where we were trying to finalize the methodology, because our next, and these are active ongoing projects that I'm presenting to. These are things that we're actively working on. Our poster abstract, we are working on, the girls are going on for the summer. So we're actively working on, with our campus dean, on getting some things put together to submit to the IRB. And so, the girls have an active hand in suggesting things that we can do, like just things for the methodology, things, and this is a methodology that they themselves are going to collect data on. Jordan is the participant, so they are shaping that, they're developing that. I mean, yeah, I am the principal investigator, but they are helping. Simple expectations. So this is a little hard to see, but this is the abstract poster submission. So this is Erica's submission to the AANEM. I apologize if it's a little hard to see, but she's second author. I am first just because it's from my thesis, but it is by committee chair from my alma mater, and she is second author. And so this is from the national conference in Orlando for the AANEM. And so it is something that we are hoping we will know in June if we get accepted. But Erica, I went to Greensville, South Carolina for this, for Keiser, and she has a publication in right now where she is second author on that. We're just waiting for desk rejection. But we are also waiting to see if she gets her publication in for second author. So it's something we're really proud of. She will have a poster presentation that we're hoping to hear back in June. So, she's just been wonderful. She has never missed a meeting yet. And she has a broken ankle. She still walks to the office. She shows up. She's been really, really great. This is Jordan's and Erica's submission to the AANEM with Dr. Kingsley and I, and this is the one on thromboembolism. What's noteworthy about this is both students are first and second author. Now, this is strictly a proposal. We weren't so sure at the time of some of the things that we are confident of now, but in June, we have 2 student posters that are submitted to that conference, and this is just the proposal for how we would do it. We have the tools and a bit more. We have the medical clearance now, but they are just proposing the thromboembolic run for the track athlete for submaximal treadmill testing. So But this is big. You know, you have two students in their masters that are first and second author on a Keiser study, so it's big for them. You know, they're really new, and you know they have the guidance. So this would be awesome if they get approved for student presentation that they themselves came up with. That's awesome for us. Huge win. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, some of the things we talked about and kind of what exactly is surface electromyography. So the girls themselves have sat with me for a lot of hours about some of the mentorship of what sEMG actually is. So it's a technology that's used to detect fatigue. You know, you put some shorts on and it actually detects kind of like ECG a little bit, but fatigue is something that we all suffer from. So the shorts that we have at Keiser, anyone can put them on. Anyone can put them on. Old, young, athletes, anyone can use them, and they can be used in a lot of different ways. NSCA, ACSM, a whole bunch of different organizations. I know my good friend and colleague, Dr. Preston, is here. Jockeys at equestrian can use them. So exercise and equestrian could work together. There are studies that were done on jockey riders riding horses, and they use these shorts. So a lot of different disciplines can use fatigue detection. So there's a company called MyonTech that developed these, and they're proprietary. So they're only one of their kind, and so they come from Germany. So with the athlete in mind, the application may vary, but they're well suited for the kind of athletes that we have. You could use them in any sport that the school has. Esports, which I know gets a lot of flack, but esports could use them. Tennis, golf, football, golf. I know I said golf, but any sport that wants to investigate anything from the hip to the knee can use them. Now, I predominantly have used them on the elderly, but they were designed for the athlete. Now, my thesis looks at the sit to stand because getting up and getting down is really deleterious. But the first study that we designed that ultimately ended up in their purchase was actually looking at athletic training. And we were going to look at partnering with the specialty hospital that the students go to. And we were going to work with Cheyenne and Tatiana along with Dr. Diaz and look at about 100 student athletes and look at return to play. Because rehabilitation, about 30% of all students that get injured go to surgery. And we were going to look at the majority of injuries that come from flagship are from football. And so we pulled all the literature, and we designed a study that we were going to submit to IRB, but we ended up just the timing wasn't right. And but we still have it all. And the first study was going to be from return to play. So assessments, a lot of really strong scholarship can lead to publication and posters. And so that's kind of what we have in mind for students with the shorts, is that the shorts are really, really good. It's not the only thing that the company makes, but you could use the shorts for any student in any program that is related to exercise could use the shorts. So that's what's really great about kind of the pipeline. So if you want to get students kind of the first goal to publication, posters are really, really good. And so with assessments, you could look at a lot of different assessments and think, where do we want to go with like what's your end goal? You teach students, you get them in the classroom, a poster presentation, because we do symposias at Keiser, and it's a form of poster. Conferences are a form of poster for that. So functional tests, right? What exactly do you look at when you're looking at the shorts? When we teach the students what exactly they're looking at, median frequency is exactly what we're talking about. Now, probably going to lose a couple of you, and I'm going to catch up to you a little bit here in a second, but surface electromyograph is sound, right? Nerves and median frequency and surface electromyograph look at nerves. Just like this little blue sound wave here on the bottom, you're looking at nerve conduction. So when we look at fatigue and we look at people getting tired and exercising, you're looking at hertz that are produced. It's similar to electrocardiogram. So when we teach people to interpret or to look at wave frequency, you're looking at median frequency. And so when we teach the students, like especially Jordan and Erica, them having experience is huge. So we're trying to simplify that right now and work with students a little bit because it is advanced. You know, it's not the easiest field of research to get into, but when you start thinking about like exercise and things like that, median frequency similar to ECG it's all electricity. And so we'll go to the next one and we'll show you. So what exactly does this look like when you're teaching students to analyze this technology? This is what they're looking at. What does fatigue look like? So this is actually what it looks like on the phone. So there's a phone app, although it's not the correct technology. And we're working that out right now to get the students the correct technology. But when I did my PhD thesis, we used the phone app version. This is about 25 hertz. Now this is walking, so there's different ways to assess, and this is actually amplitude. You can walk, you can run. There's a couple different ways to actually look at fatigue. And in my PhD thesis, we looked at peak amplitude. Here at the top, you have the peak of it, and this is called Welch's power spectral density. And so really what we want students to come away with is how do you apply this, right? Applied research is really what we want to talk about. And so when we look at fatigue, we want to tell students not to be intimidated by it, but we want to get them to understand that. Notice how there's 30 seconds of time elapsed here. This is when I did my PhD, we collected 30-second windows of data, and we had people complete 30 seconds of sit-to-stand. And so when we would do Jordan's experiment, she would do a 15-minute treadmill test. So she would have 15 minutes of data. And so we would have to have software that could process 15 minutes. Now, it would look similar to this, but essentially they would learn the skill set of how to process data. But this is essentially what fatigue looks like. Now, this is a picture of them that I kind of created, but it gets you to appreciate the application part, right? So if I'm working with this guy on the left, which is a picture we used for our conference, and yes, I did get permission. This is a guy on the left who would do the 30-second sit-to-stand. So two different applications of the same technology. So you have it in the elderly where they're doing a sit-to-stand and they're putting the shorts on. And this is the girls doing the treadmill test with the factor 5 light in, right? So the shorts have the technology here, and they have a cell that transmits information to a computer. And this is the Pro license, and it's a second layer of technology. And one, Jordan would be running, and she would have the shorts on, and then they would process it with a program, and then a student would be doing signal processing here. On this side, you would have a older gentleman doing a whole different functional test, doing the sit-to-stand, and then you would do signal processing with the software and just collect it. Two different tests, two different applications, same signal processing. So the shorts allow you to run tests for different purposes and for two different things. Now, you're looking for median frequency because that is how you interpret fatigue. but the shorts can be used in different capacities. So you can ask different questions for research, different types of investigation, and for different kinds of population, rehab, athletic performance, things like that. So even though you have different athletic implications, you can ask different questions. They have the chip, the internal memory unit. There's different bandwidth processes. It has different implications. It has Bluetooth technology. It can do different things and filter different properties. How it actually works is the shorts send a signal out through Bluetooth, and the internal memory unit sends out a signal, and and produces some artifact. And so it transmits all your fatigue to the computer, and the computer filters all that information out, and that's how you actually get the signal. So when you process that, it signal and nerve signal is very loud, and so you have to have software that allows that signal to be interpreted like a translator. So without getting too complicated, the students learn how to process this through code. And so you have and this is actually can be a little on the complicated side, but Erica has done a really good job learning the technical side of EMG, and Jordan came already equipped with knowing how to do MATLAB. But the complicated part, the students actually don't even struggle with at all. They're actually quite bright, and I haven't really had to teach them the complicated part whatsoever, and believe it or not. And for a lot of people that would consider this to be complex, students don't struggle with it all. I mean, you got to consider they're already in a master's. So I haven't had the experience of working with an undergrad student, but so this is actually what it looks like. On the right side, you have the raw signal, and on the left side is how fatigue actually affects the nerve signal in hertz. So without software, you don't get that nice little rendered signaling down, and this is why we need software so much. The shorts dumb it down, but without software, we cannot interpret what this looks like, and that signaling dumbing down is called rectification. So this is why EMG and sEMG is kind of more of one of the more difficult exercise disciplines to really get a hang of, because you need software like MATLAB and Python to reduce this signal. And it's also why we don't really do electrodiagnostics, because nerve disease is very hard to interpret. And so we rectify that down with software to reduce that. And we're currently trying to get the students the software so they can learn signal processing. So this is just kind of a position statement that kind of talks about who can run these studies, and that you need a PhD, and you also need data analysis on who can run the EMG studies. We've already talked about that we're not allowed to diagnose anyone and things like that, and we explain that to the students. And on collaboration, we can work with a lot of different fields: sports, physical therapy, robotics, and the technology is really sound. Work with a lot of different fields, and just kind of bringing it all together. That it's not perfect, but it's really great. We have a lot of collaboration. I'm just running short on time here, and it's been really grateful. I got this really, really great QR code here for a certificate. If you want to scan this, and I know Dr. Dayanim is with me on the call, but this will allow you to get your certificate if you just put in applied research into this QR code. But I just want to thank everybody for giving me the time today. Few minutes left for any questions as far as the talk, and just, yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting and informative. And I'm sure that we can all benefit from utilizing your tactics with including students and engagement. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. If we have any questions, now is the time. And I did post a link also to getting your continuing education certificate. It'll automatically be sent to you. And as mentioned, the type of research that you should click to get your certificate is applied research. Yes, Dr. Diaz.
Yeah, great job, Dr. Gibson. I think we had a question from a student, I believe, Felicia. Are you still there? If you want to ask a question, if no, I can read. Do you have access to the chat, Andrew?
Yeah.
Or you want to read
Yeah.
to Danny? She's asking, how sensitive is the EMG detecting very weak or inconsistent muscle signals? She says she's a C6 to T1 incomplete quadriplegic and very familiar with how traditional work. So.
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually. So you can get our shorts wouldn't be able, well, because traditional quadriplegia is a percentile diagnosis. So since you have incomplete quadriplegia, we probably could get some nerve conduction off the forgive me if I can't remember the name. I'm going to answer this in a technical way. Out of respect, you asked a technical question. But the quadra equina is also known as the horse's tail, which is the lower horse tail junction. It's the highest nerve activity in the human body. And so, although you're asking a question off of your neck, your C6 and your thoracic 1, as you age, lower body neural activity preservation reduces. So as a person ages, the ability to detect neural activity diminishes quite drastically. And that's a natural neural activity for everyone in the absolute threshold. So if we detect sEMG activity around 20, 30 years old, around the 6th to 7th decade, neural activity detection would be much poorer. So if we ran an EMG study on you, say 60, 50 years old, it'd be much poorer prognosis than if you were 20 to 30 years old. So sEMG probability for nerve activation, and this is for everyone, quadriplegia not being the case. So add in quadriplegia incomplete, that depends on percentile. I have mild paralysis in my left ankle. EMG put on there, you're not going to do very well. Majority of EMG studies that are done on the hands and feet because of superficial tissue. They can't see very, very well because of thickness of skin. Now, neural activity that's deeper, you consider vertebrae in the neck and things like that. It's kind of hard to tell because the nerves are so deep. The cervical vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae are kind of close. You get down to the lumbar, it's harder to reach. NCS studies like you're considering because you're very familiar with EMG work, it kind of just depends, especially with the degeneration of discs. So to answer your question, depends on how bad the neural activity is around that area. sEMG, maybe. Now there's a variation of EMG called high sEMG or hsEMG, where the electrodes are higher. They go beyond 32. So if you look into that, you might get a little more information.
Great job. Thank you. I think Stephanie Preston.
Can you see my
Yeah,
question there,
so-
Andrew? We've talked a little bit about the
yeah.
jockeys, but about the horses themselves, because I was super interested working with the University of Kentucky at fatigue, and as you mentioned, football players, it very much coincides with some of their strength and conditioning. And we tried using that technology on the actual horse, knowing that different horses would fatigue at different times, and that contributes very directly to catastrophic failure. But
Sure.
measuring the movement of the horse's skin has proven challenging thus far.
Yeah, that skin adhesion is always going to be a challenge, but even if you account for the skin, from what I've heard, animal physiology and human physiology is comparable. So that's why you test is comparable to each other. But even beyond that, horses are incredibly muscular, incredibly muscular. So my question would be motor neural activity in a horse is probably much higher. And so if you're trying to go 1-to-1 and measure, like if you remember the slide of the static, I would say it would just be hard you would need more electrodes to measure all of the sites that would be needed. Like we use a standard for all people called the sEMG project, surface electromyographic neuromuscular imaging map. You would need something like that for horses because human and people just aren't the same. I mean, physiology wise, like you can compare them, but I don't know if they're the same for people. So the answer to your question is I don't know.
Sure, interesting. Great job. Thanks for the info.
Sure. I just think you would need more to compare them.
Well, yeah, and especially with the amount of motion as they stretch, whether they're racing or jumping or other types of performances, there is quite a lot of movement.
Yeah, even
but
if
we
the
can talk about that
locomotor
later. It'd be
pattern,
interesting.
yeah. It's an interesting question. I just think that you would need to account for all the muscles that are firing in that movement. You would need more sensors to account for it.
Right, which is why the majority of research has been more traditionally on treadmills and things like that.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Yep, thank you for the presentation. See ya.
For sure. Okay. Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Okay, I don't see any other hands.
Is there a way for any of us virtual students to get involved in the research?
Yeah, so there is a young lady who is shown some interest. Yeah, so there's all kinds of ways to do qualitative research in any environment. Uh, Put your email in the chat, and I'll make sure that we connect. Let's see, physical therapy assistant, getting ready to start role. So honestly, the future for EMG is it's really, really big right now. I had all kinds of, I remember being at UVA talking with a cardiology department, and they had just patented a cardiac assistant device. Talked with their department about research. You wouldn't believe the people I've talked to about EMG, and I'm an online PhD at that. So that really surprises people when I tell them I was an online student for my PhD, and I got and I graduated without a lab, and so I had to learn everything that I knew about my research without a lab. And so when I tell you I had to apply it, I really did. The technology itself is very new, but the ACSM publishes research on it. It's growing quite a bit. For physical therapy, University of Tennessee has just recently expanded their programs quite a bit, including EMG. Fatigue is something that a lot of people are very interested in. They care a lot about it. Geriatric, I mean, they want to stay young forever. Pickleball, constantly interested in intervention, I would consider, if you're really wanting to learn more about EMG, I would say, shoot your email over, Chris, and we can stay connected. There's a lot of things that you can do and consider ad hoc, even contributing to methodology. If you're doing PTA, we can put you on a mailing list and get you involved that way. Okay. And we can do that and keep you involved. Yeah, of course.
Right, any other questions or comments before we go? This has been really obviously engaging and wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Gibson, for your time. Thank you all for being here. Please come back and join us for future RSC events. And thank you all again, and have a great day.
Great
Thank
job,
you.
Will. Great job. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.